Hi everyone, so this is the third part of my life skills videos. It is about the objective inquiry. So within my videos I've been talking about triggers, especially in regards to addictions. So it is important for people to understand the importance of a new learned behavior. Within the objective inquiry, I'd like to talk about the pros and cons of understanding what triggers are and why they have an importance to the individual on both a personal level as well as an overall level to understand their recovery. So it shows the individual that there's an importance in understanding triggers to begin with. Many individuals, they either don't understand that they have the triggers or they don't understand the connection between what causes them to feel this way and then what causes them to get themselves into trouble by using these negative behaviors. When an individual understands their triggers and understands the cues leading to the triggers, they're often able to better cope with them. So many individuals find that even though they have recognized what their triggers are, they don't understand the cues that lead into them. These cues can vary for different people, as everybody will respond to different situations differently. And some people will have situations that may be triggers to others but aren't a trigger to them. So the cues that people can have can be physiological, psychological, emotional, and they can come from different things. The categories that generally these triggers lie within are people, persons, place, and things. Once an individual is able to understand these cues and how these cues start to connect with the triggering situation, and then how the triggering situation connects to the negative behavior, they are better able to start to develop coping skills to deal with the situation. These coping skills may identify to a specific situation or many situations, especially if the different situations always evoke the same type of emotion or psychological feeling or physiological feeling. Some individuals do better when it comes to speaking about triggers and coping skills that relax them or calm them. Others understand coping skills better that have to do with the psychological part as opposed to the physiological part. It's important because the knowledge allows individuals to funnel the uncontrollable stressors as well as the controllable stressors. When an individual is dealing with uncontrollable stressors, such as things that they will always have to deal with or cannot eliminate out of their life, it allows them to take those stressors and deal with them in a positive way. These different ways can be different behaviors, or it can be different types of hobbies, exercise, any type of thing that an individual can do that allows them to move forward in a positive behavior as opposed to falling backwards into the negative behavior. So last week we talked about identifying the different triggers in your life, and a big thing for you was situational triggers. So how have you been doing with working with that and coping with it?
Well, so far I've been able to identify them a lot easier.
Okay.
After we discussed last week, then I was able to, from the journal, identify what parts of my day are leading to the end result. Um, and I was able to now look at that and say, okay, I need to change this, or I need to do something else when this feeling happens.
Are you finding that there's any pros or cons to being able to identify these things?
Absolutely a pro that now that I can identify what it is that's causing me to start feeling these things, I can do something to divert the course. So bring in a new activity or some new mindset or do some other thing that will lead me away from going to the bar after work.
So I understand that you're saying that it's the bar is a big thing, and that's a situational trigger. It's a place. Are you able to understand any of the cues that you maybe experience that lead to recognizing the trigger before you've been able to recognize it?
Well, part of it is one of the major cues is just simply the work that I deal with. As I'm going through my day, everything is kind of piling on. I don't really have time to take a break in the middle of my day and just kind of breathe and refresh myself. Um, so that would be one thing that I would be able to try to do is kind of space my day out a little bit.
So those types of cues are generally an emotional or a mental cue. Um, they give you that understanding that this trigger might be coming because you're starting to feel overwhelmed or you're starting to feel stressor. How about, have you ever heard of any type of physiological cues?
What would that be?
So some individuals, when they start to run into a trigger, they can physically feel themselves start to experience symptoms of anxiety. So their heart starts to race, their breathing gets either shallow or very compulsive. They start to sweat, some people. It's the types of symptoms that you might show as if you were having anxiety, but somebody was only looking at your physical symptoms.
Sometimes I'll notice that when something like this is happening, when something is getting to be a little bit too much, I start to talk really, really fast. I start to basically feel this urgency to get away from the situation. I can feel my body, like my legs shake a little bit, more of like a nervous tick almost, mixed in with an anxious feeling of just the urge to leave. And I think that's probably what draws me to find that escape after work.
Yeah, and that's understandable. I mean, it's a stressor, and we have controllable stressors and uncontrollable stressors. So there are things that we talked about last week where you stated that you could do things to eliminate some of the stressors. So working a different shift, working with different colleagues, but no matter where it is that you kind of go to within your job, you'll have those stressors of the fact that you are working in a career.
Right.
So now that you are kind of starting to recognize some of those cues that lead to the situation being triggering, is there any types of things that you could maybe do in regards to calming yourself down or keeping yourself grounded?
I think probably what would help is more throughout the day, just kind of get up from my desk and walk around the office a little bit. Just take myself out of the stressful situation, even for like 2 minutes at a time, just to let myself decompress a little bit and refresh before jumping into the next person.
Yep, and those are important things. They're called grounding techniques. There's different ones. That's one thing, to try and get away from the stressor for a moment, to try and debrief. Some people, they have to stop and breathe for 10 seconds because it gives you that 10 seconds for your brain to kind of catch up with everything that's going on around you. To be able to find a grounding technique is often important, especially if there's stressors that you can't completely eliminate, and these stressors are what lead to a triggering situation.
Okay.
So I'm happy that you're starting to understand kind of the importance in how cues kind of allow you to recognize that a triggering situation is coming, and when that triggering situation comes, you understand where coping skills, both minor and major, affect how you're going to respond to the situations.
Absolutely.
So